I wanted to say a few words today about ribbon judging. So my orchids went last weekend to the Wisconsin Orchid Society show at Mellinger's, and this is a small show. It's smaller than their fall show, which is much larger, and so there wasn't a lot of competition. So this here is my Potenar pumpkin, and it was at the Batavia show, which I didn't share my results because I basically didn't get any first place ribbons. I got a few second place ribbons, and this plant right here actually got a third place ribbon. But then it went to the Wisconsin show and had different competition, and it picked up a best of class and a first place ribbon. So, you know, there's two types of judgings at orchid shows. There's ribbon judging, which most shows will have, and then in that, the orchid is competing against other entries to the show. And then there is AOS judging. This is in the US. And in AOS judging, the plant is competing against itself and the standards set by the American Orchid Society. Now, a show usually has both types of judging. If it's an AOS, I don't know about sponsored, but you could apply to be an AOS judge show. But you know, all shows have ribbon judging, and so you can send the same plant to two different shows in 2 different weeks, and they can have completely different ribbon results. The AOS results probably don't change. I mean, this is not an AOS award quality orchid, but certainly, you know, what was a third place plant 1 week was a best of class. Obviously the most floriferous Cattleya at the Wisconsin Orchid Society show. And I wanted to show some other results from the Wisconsin show. So right here I have a first bloom seedling and it got 2 second place ribbons. And you think, how can I get 2 ribbons? Well, you can enter some plants in more than 1 class for judging. So this one, I entered it both in the Cattleya class, and I also entered it as a first bloom seedling, and it ribboned in both classes. And the other thing I want to say is that your orchid doesn't need to have a name to go to a show and be judged for ribbons. So right here I have a no ID white phalaenopsis. This is one of my orchids which you might have seen in a previous video. It was dug out of the trash. It has a terminal spike, but you can see that it got itself a first place ribbon at the Wisconsin show. It's very nicely flowered. So it can't qualify for American Orchid Society judging because it doesn't have an ID, but it's totally a possibility to submit for ribbon judging. And over here I have a no ID epidendrum, and you can see that it got a third place ribbon right here. So, you know, I submitted actually I think 3, no, or maybe just 2 no ID orchids, and they both ribboned. So, you know, ribbon judging is very different. I don't think people should be scared of joining an orchid society and then bringing in their plants for shows, and both, you know, local or what we call away shows, because, you know, what happens at a show is completely dependent on what your competition is. So, you know, you can get multiple ribbons on the same plant. You can get first place ribbons on no IDs, you know, because what they're looking there is how is your plant grown and how does it compare to other orchids that are in the same class in competition. So I hope you've learned something about ribbon judging, and perhaps you will consider submitting one of your homegrown orchids for a show.